This content is AI generated for informational purposes only and should not be directly used for clinical decision-making.
Hello and welcome back to the Neurosurgery Hub podcast. I'm Dr. Aris, Senior Attending Neurosurgeon.
And I'm Dr. Alara, Research Fellow. Today we're looking at a fascinating new study from Neurologia medico-chirurgica titled Local Recurrence After Microsurgical Clipping of Unruptured Intracranial Aneurysms, Incidence, Timing, and Risk Factors over 20 years.
This is a topic that hits home for many of us in the OR. We often tell our patients that microsurgical clipping is the gold standard for durability, that once it's clipped, it's gone for good. But this paper takes a very long view, looking at data spanning from 2003 all the way to 2025.
Exactly. It's a retrospective cohort study of 657 patients who underwent 700 procedures for 786 anterior circulation aneurysms. What makes this study stand out is the follow-up period. They had a mean follow-up of 10.5 years, totaling nearly 7,000 patient years. They assessed recurrence using CT angiography at 5-year intervals.
So, what did the long-term durability actually look like?
It's quite impressive, though not absolute. They identified only 9 local recurrences. That gives us an annual recurrence rate of 0.156% per patient year and 0.111% per aneurysm year. If you look at the cumulative recurrence-free rates, it was a perfect 100% at 5 years. However, it dipped to 99.1% at 10 years and 98.6% at 15 years.
That's a crucial point for our residents listening. Recurrence after clipping is a late-game event. If you only follow your patients for 3 or 5 years, you're going to report a 0% recurrence rate, which might be misleading. The study shows a gradual increase beyond the 10-year mark. Now, Ilara, did they find specific locations that were more prone to coming back?
They did. The location-specific analysis was very revealing. They found significantly higher recurrence rates for internal carotid anterior choroidal aneurysms, the ICACHA, at 0.630% annually, and internal carotid posterior communicating artery aneurysms, the ICP-COMA, at 0.262% annually. This was statistically significant compared to other locations with a p-value of 0.011.
That makes clinical sense. Those are areas where we are often fighting for every millimeter to preserve vital perforators. I want to dive deeper into the why. The authors identify 3 mechanistic patterns for recurrence, didn't they?
Yes, and this is perhaps the most clinically relevant part of the paper for practicing surgeons. Pattern A was closure line regress after parallel clipping. They saw this in 2 cases where the clip was applied parallel to the parent artery, but over time the pressure caused regrowth along the line of the clip closure. Pattern B involved a residual thin-walled basal footprint in broad base aneurysms. Again, this was seen in 2 cases, where the base was so wide that even with a good clip application, a small part of that fragile wall was essentially left behind outside the clip's reach.
And then there is pattern C, which I suspect explains the ICACHA and ICP-COMA risk.
Precisely. Pattern C accounted for the majority, 5 out of the 9 cases. These were subangiographic remnants preserved for perforator safety. In these cases, the surgeon intentionally leaves a tiny microscopic portion of the neck to ensure they don't compromise the anterior choroidal or the PCOM artery.
It's the classic neurosurgical dilemma, perfection versus safety. But here's the most interesting part of the study for me, the Sindhu grade paradox. Ilara, walk us through that.
This was definitely the most surprising finding. All 9 recurrences occurred in aneurysms that were classified as Sindhu grade 0, meaning complete obliteration, on early postoperative imaging. Meanwhile, they had 26 cases, about 3.3% of the total, where they knew they had small neck remnants, Sindhu grades 1 or 2, and none of those recurred.
That sounds counterintuitive. You'd think a known remnant would be the one to grow.
It suggests that what we see on a standard post-op angiogram as complete obliteration might still harbor these subangiographic remnants, especially in those high-risk locations. If the remnant is large enough to be seen and is stable, it might stay that way. But those microscopic pattern C remnants are the ones that can slowly expand over a decade or more.
So if we're looking at the take-home message for our colleagues in the clinic, what are we telling them?
The message is that while microsurgical clipping offers excellent long-term durability, we cannot be complacent. The study highlights the need for continued surveillance, particularly for aneurysms at locations requiring perforator-preserving techniques, like the ACHA and PCOMA. Because recurrences generally didn't appear until after the 5-year mark, long-term imaging follow-up is necessary.
It's a reminder that neurosurgery is a marathon, not a sprint. Even a perfect clip job might need a second look 10 years down the road.
Absolutely.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us on the Neurosurgery Hub podcast.
We'll see you next time.